around the Afghanistan time is when I come back to the UK on one of my 4 weeks off, and I looked after my first celebrity, who you may have heard of,
Who was that?
Michael
Michael
Jackson.
Jackson.
Michael Jackson was your first celebrity that you got to bodyguard for?
Yeah, he was my first one. November 2006, he come across for the World Music Awards, and that's I was home on leave, and I got asked if I would look after someone. They didn't tell me who it was. Um, I actually nearly said no to it because I only had 4 weeks off. I thought, do I want to work 2 weeks on my 4 weeks off? And then I thought, well, I'm going to come back to London at some stage to be a bodyguard, so maybe it's a good idea to, get some contacts and see what it's all about. So I said yes to it, and it wasn't until I turned up at the airport and was given sort of a briefing pack of what was going on, I found out who it was.
Well, that's insane. That's not like just bodyguarding for just a regular celebrity. That is pretty much one of the most famous people in the entire world, where I've seen videos, when he used to go out in public and it was just like swarms of people. Like, talk about being thrust into like the craziest situation. What was it like?
It was a little bit of a steep learning curve. But, I mean, to be honest with you, it wasn't much different to the way we used to operate when we worked overseas. It was a lot safer job, but there was a lot more crowd management, a lot of crowd management with him. Like you said, he'd get swamped all the time. We had about probably 8 or 9 taxis following us all the time, where fans had hired out for the duration that he was there, just so they could jump in it and follow us all the time. And the accumulations of fans was huge. It was massive everywhere we went, to the extent that sometimes we really had to decide if it was worth going somewhere, because it wasn't always worth it. Too much hassle.
I just want to know, what was he like in person? Like, what was it like being around Michael when you get into the car and the doors close and the fans are outside? Is he just like, oh, thank goodness, or is he just quiet? I just have to know. I'm so fascinated with Michael.
It just depends. I mean, he's not a lot different to anyone else in the fact that it depends what mood he's in. Everybody has good days, bad days. Maybe they get in the car excited. Maybe they get in the car upset. Maybe they're just normal. Some days they want to talk. Some days they don't want to talk. Very softly spoken guy anyway. Didn't engage in loads of conversation. I didn't have as much interaction with him as I have had with some of my other clients, just because there was always 4 or 5 of the security team anyway. It's almost impossible to be able to do that job on your own. So yeah, he was very normal. He was very softly spoken, almost to the extent that you could argue maybe a bit shy, ironically. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think shy getting in front of all those people singing, but yeah, I'd say a little bit shy.
Would he ever, like, when you're in a car with Michael Jackson, does he ever just sing to like the radio in the car? Like, that'd be just kind of cool. Like, like I would just test him and put like a little Michael Jackson in the car and see if he sings along, like Billie Jean, or just.
Oh, I don't remember having the radio on in the car. A lot of the drives we did were very short and sweet, very quick, small moves. So we probably didn't really sort of get too comfortable, if you like.
Yeah. So what do the fans try to do? You said they try to hide out. What exactly did you see with the fans, especially with someone like Michael Jackson? Because he's like the Pope of celebrities. So what did you see the fans try to do just to get seen, just to touch him and hug him, or express their love for him? What would you see him do?
The hotels, or the hotel at the time he was in, I think at one stage in London, a number of hotels wouldn't take him because of his fan base. And it wasn't the fact that they were disrespectful as such, but just the sheer volume of them. You can imagine that, it's like going to a festival with the mess that's left behind after. So some hotels didn't like to take him because of that. But on that particular occasion, we stayed at a hotel called the Hempel. I think it might not be around anymore, but we had barriers out the front. We had UK police officers there 24 hours a day, yellow jackets sort of keeping everybody back. And generally, they were pretty good. The crowd was 4 or 5 deep, maybe at sort of the later hours at night, but in the daytime, it could be 6 or 7 people deep. And it's only on a normal street. It's not a particularly big street, this hotel. But when we moved him, or when we were moving the cars and getting ready to move, so people knew we were coming out, some pushing, shoving, the barriers would get trodden down, the police would get knocked over sometimes. It all turned into a little bit of a controlled mess.
I find this whole thing so fascinating. I think it's just the Michael craze is so wild. Did he enjoy talking to his fans? I mean, I feel like he was such a fan pleaser, but like, how do you please 10,000 fans sitting outside of your hotel? You can't really do too much.
I think he would have liked to have done a bit more than what he could have done. he always didn't really talk too much because he tried to keep the guy moving and get him into, out of the hotel into the car kind of as quick as possible. And although he did do the odd wave, it wasn't particularly safe to have him standing still in one place for too long. But one thing he did do is he used to send someone to try and get maybe 4 or 5 gifts. And there's always people with gifts, it sometimes could be hundreds of gifts, but we'd try and choose 4 or 5 because, again, realistically, we can't take them all. You'd need another van full of gifts every time you turn up somewhere. So 4 or 5 and give them to him, and he would look through them. He generally would. He wouldn't just pretend he's taken them when we got to wherever we went. He always looked through them and maybe recognised the reoccurring fan. And he did take time at looking. I'll give him his credit with that. He did always take time at looking through whatever he was given.